My name is Alicia Davids. I am the CEO of the ASISA Academy. ASISA stands for the Association of Savings and Investment South Africa, and ASISA in itself is an industry body, and the Academy is one of the entities that is associated with ASISA. Essentially, it is driving the business of the ASISA Academy. So we have a particular vision and mission, and so my job is to ensure that our team pull together and we move in the same direction to achieve our mission. I have a business development team, and I have an academic manager, and then I have a team of course coordinators, but the people who then run the programs that we have are our program champions. So I oversee all of that. I think one of the most important things is to ensure that I connect with stakeholders in the industry and potential clients. So clients are our ASISA members and other stakeholders in the industry, to let them know what we have to offer, to look at how we can collaborate, how we can partner together to actually fulfill the vision and the mission of the ASISA Academy. I was born on the Cape Flats. I was born in Steenberg. And in 1976, one of the first families to move into Mitchell's Plain. And so by that time, I had done just about half of my primary schooling in Steenberg at Sullivan Primary. And then a little while later, the schools opened up in Mitchell's Plain. And I then continued with my primary schooling and went on to do all my high schooling in Mitchell's Plain at Westridge Secondary School. And from there, I went on to study at the University of the Western Cape. And my family, my dad was a labourer, he was a carpenter, he worked for the city council. My mom, who did, let's call it a little bit of a variety of work, started out as a factory worker machinist. She then went on to doing a little bit of clerical work, but when my baby brother was born, we were 5 children. My baby brother was born. He was the last child, and he developed brain damage. And then my mom gave up her work and looked after him full time. I did my undergrad at the University of the Western Cape. And this is interesting because I had never ever planned to study what I did. At high school, it was a difficult one to know, what do I want to do? And then I thought, well, I think I'll become an occupational therapist. This was quite new, and I thought, let me explore that. So I went and I paid a visit to the Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town, to their occupational therapy division. And coming out of that, I got a bit of a fright. I thought, ooh, I don't know if I can do this. But I had already applied, to study occupational therapy. Fortunately or unfortunately, I did not get a bursary to study that. My parents couldn't afford to send me to university. But in that year of going to university, the Department of Education and Culture, back then, that's what it was called, was offering bursaries for anyone who wanted to study a degree and latch on a teaching diploma to that and then go and teach. But there I was, and I applied for that and I got it. So I was able to then study psychology and English. Those were my 2 majors. And I then latched onto that 4th year, which was a higher diploma in education. For achieving that, I had to go and work back my bursary. In other words, I have to go and teach for the equivalent number of years. However, I went and taught for 8 years. So I taught English at Macassar Secondary School for 8 years, and I loved it. What I discovered at some point in my life was that it's almost as though I didn't quite know, you just sort of grapple. What is my purpose? What is my why? These days we like to use that term. What is your why? And as I say, a bursary was offered. I studied this. I went and taught. I was so fortunate, I think, to find a school where I had great mentors. I, fell in love with what I was doing. But after a couple of years, I decided to move on. So in that period, I was a little bit lost. And someone asked a question one day that shook me and irritated me and frustrated me because I didn't have an answer. And the question was, what do you want? That's it. What do you want? And I grappled with that, and I was angry with myself for not knowing what I wanted. But then I could confront it. And I could say, hang on, what do you want? And, you know, sometimes we get into a place in life where we just go with the flow. And I think it's important to stop going with the flow and to actually confront that question and say, am I actually in a space where when I go to bed at night, I put my head on that pillow and I feel fully complete, I feel satisfied, fulfilled with what I am doing. And so, yes, so I had left teaching. I spent 4 years working with this nonprofit, which was great. I was doing a decent job, but it wasn't really fulfilling me completely. And then I decided I need to go back to education. But this time I was clear that I was not going back to schools, but I was going to go into somewhere in the higher education or adult education space. I then bought a company off the shelf, and I got a couple of donated things like a desk, a computer, a chair, etc. And I started my office down the passage from my bedroom. Created a little space, got a little phone, fax machine back then, and I started making phone calls. And I just started, teaching things, and I managed to connect with people. So I think building your network is so important. You connect with people, you pick up the phone, and as you start doing things, people start realizing, okay, this is what you can do. How about this? How about that? So in that period of starting my own business, I also had a situation I was grappling with. I wasn't ready to hire anyone and build a company. Some people have that vision. I didn't have that vision. So I realized that I wanted to work sort of like in the gig economy as an independent consultant, and that's what I did. It worked for me. I then managed to get contracts, one with the University of Cape Town, their School of Education, and one with Old Mutual's Centre of Excellence, their business school. And I then, because I was a teacher, I would take content and I knew how to present it, how to teach it, how to reflect on it, how to assess it, etc. So in that period of being self-employed, I also got myself certified as an assessor, a registered assessor with the CETAs, registered moderator, etc. And that's then what I did. And as I said, in that period, I was then lured, into a business to sort of move away from being self-employed to buy shares in a training provider company where I worked for a short while. Things didn't quite work out for me there. I then decided to go back to working on my own, and it's kind of serendipitous, I think, how things work out. In 2007, I got a call from the ASISA Academy to come for an interview for the role of an academic manager. Had the interview, things didn't work out. As they say, the planets weren't aligned. And I carried on doing my work with Old Mutual. I did a lot of training for them, particularly in the area of personal mastery. So my studies in psychology came in handy, and my qualification as a teacher came in handy. And I traveled throughout the country training different staff members of Old Mutual. Also trained in Namibia for, every year I was called to go and train in Namibia, some of the Old Mutual staff there from different parts of Namibia. They would come to Windhoek and I would deliver training there. And I absolutely loved it. But what was interesting was in that period I also grew. Through the content I was teaching, I was also growing, as I started fulfilling my role here. So I got involved with the ASISA Academy, also as a contract, consultant. And that role simply grew and grew and grew over the years. It's busy. It's intense. So I always try to work in a very structured way so that I know I've got certain amount of meetings and a certain amount of time to actually get work done in between that needs to be done. But a typical Monday would be starting off with an operations meeting, and that would entail a meeting with all my course coordinators, my business development coordinator, and my academic manager. So every Monday we meet and we discuss what happened last week, what's coming up this week, and a little bit further down the line, what went well, what can be improved, etc. And from there, it would be a series of meetings for the week that would perhaps be business development, as I said earlier on, looking at connecting with ASISA members who are our partners. They partner with us, they sponsor some of our programs, especially the programs for young people, internships, graduate work readiness courses, etc. So it would be a series of meetings like that or other meetings. And then it would be perhaps proposals that I'm working together with my business development team. There's a business development meeting that happens on the academic front, just keeping in touch with what's happening there. So it's all about just being in touch with what's happening and what's in the pipeline. So when we look back, we look back together, so it's always me and someone else looking back together on what happened. Did we deliver well on that? Did we maintain our standards in terms of quality? If we didn't, what are we learning? What are we going to action and implement going forward to ensure that we deliver and we don't make the same mistakes that we made the last time? And then, it's going forward, what's building the pipeline. So we have a very structured way, and we're already busy scheduling our courses for next year. So it's always looking at what's coming up further down the line so that we ensure that there's a continuous stream of courses. That's difficult because I so immerse myself in everything that is my job, my work, my calling. So I do love engaging people, so where there's opportunity to collaborate, so have those meetings that result in something exciting. I would do that all day if I could, but obviously we can't. We've got to say, okay, let's pull this together and now make something of it. So what I don't enjoy, what do I least enjoy? It's hard to say. I don't know. I suppose it's emails. Having to respond to emails and trying to keep track of all my, to keep track of my inbox. So that I would say is probably the least exciting or enjoyable, but still necessary. So being able to, at the Academy, we try to be email ninjas. That means we try to be quite ruthless by making sure we attend to the most important things, quite quickly and urgently attend to those, and manage your time as well, so that where you have the bigger tasks that demand more time, you can schedule that into your diary. Build your self-confidence, and I would say read, ask good questions. I think as a young person myself, I was very much an introvert. Nothing wrong with that. I think to a certain extent I'm still an introvert, although a lot of my colleagues would beg to differ. Maybe I should say I'm an ambivert. That's a new one, isn't it? But I was quite shy and reticent. And I would encourage young people to come out of your shell. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be a little bit audacious. If I think about it, I studied psychology, I studied English, and this came, it just came in handy at a certain point in my life. So I think you must never be afraid. I think the main thing is, don't chase money. Don't chase, or sometimes you could be highly ambitious, but something I always say to young people in our work readiness courses is live your own truth. So ask yourself, why am I chasing this? Is this really my dream? Or is it someone else's dream? Or, am I chasing money? Am I chasing material wealth? What is it that I'm doing? Because you can have all of those things. That's fantastic. but you can come up empty. So I would just caution young people, when you are looking to the future, try to look at who am I and where could I potentially see myself really fulfilled.